All right, let's jump straight into it on the 1 hour on EU, right, to see what we can do actually. So, as you already can see from 15 miles away, we had this huge uptrend, right? This huge upchanneling price action. And to make it a little bit clearer, let's remove this one just to see the up channeling was, right? And we already can see they finally got rid of breaking this trade, okay, this trend, okay, very nice, perfect stuff. So we technically had our internal switch of directional, right? This internal breaker structures in here that already is done. It's already mitigated in here, right? Perfect. But then we had this overall nicer push all the way up here, right? But that technically is really nice in this push. So that broke significantly in here. So that is our valid breaker structure here. If you see this leg leading all the way to the upside, right? Perfect. Okay. So in that scenario, we already can see, okay, we have some sort of directional shift to the downside. We already can see, okay, huge imbalances in here. Got smart money trapped, perfect. And now the next extreme mitigation, where's the extreme mitigation here? Last point of imbalance would be all the way in here, right? Something like this. Okay, so that's the last point of the imbalance, and that's also the extreme after the directional shift got locked in, and we had nice smart money traps in here. But guess what? Did it tap into here? No, it leaves us with this juicy equal highs in here, which is also Asia highs in here, right? Perfect. Okay, so with that in mind, we already have a very good directional shift. So first of all, we see, okay, this could potentially lead to some sort of mitigation or smart money trap. Okay, you obviously have to find out in the moment what's going on in here, right? If this makes sense, this play in where the direction is, or if it leads straight into, for fuck's sake, depending on the cycle and what we will have in here, right? But what we can also see, okay, we have these imbalances in here of this push, that this is the inducement. Technically, yes, it's the break of structure, but for the cycle, it is kind of the inducement low. That's why the huge reaction happened, and it's valid until the next supply areas. Okay, so technically we never tapped into demand. So this is still valid until we hit into the supply area, okay, or the supply area, depending on what comes first, right? So with that in mind, we obviously can go now and see this cycle play. So maybe let's actually stay in a moment to show you the cycle plays a little bit more in depth. Okay, so of course, let's say for this day example, okay, this day, for example, or even like this day for even more argument's sakes, right? So you have these huge up runs, and then finally we got this internal breaker structures in this day. Okay, so as you see, Asia range this day, and then the next day, even or a little bit before that, it mitigates this points here also. That's the push it led to it, right? So this next day, knowing that we broke major uptrends and we got a break of structure before that. So we can expect that this day in here, even now in hindsight, it's very easy, but we can expect that just for understanding purposes, that this day can lead to either, again, in this case, it was a really nice Asia whipsaw, or some sort of retail heaven, right? If let's say it broke out low here, then it can go lower, or it can break out high and then go lower, but forming a London knockout, right? Until obviously the next valid areas. So let's see what they actually did. Right, so we know that these cycle plays could potentially happen, right? But guess what happened actually is this juicy Asia whipsaw. Okay, so technically, depending on if you see this in Asia whipsaw, because this push just barely stayed short of it, again, building the equal highs and then comes back, right? But this cycle was really nice in Frankfurt, right? And again, also gave some really juicy internal plays in here. If you see this Frankfurt open inducement, just a cycle base, right? Nice channeling downwards before that, building the equal lows in here, really nice. Channeling downwards, breaks out of Asia range, internal breaker structure, comes back to mitigate in here. Perfect timing, Frankfurt timing as well. Aim for the next liquidity areas, which was Asia high in this sense. This was all done and away from this huge extreme, which after the breaker structure trading away from that. And then it got just smoked, right? And then the next day, so that's where this understanding of the cycle plays comes into play. Now, of course, we had this huge down run, which led to the 1 hour break of structures. But of course, for intraday trading, this is considered your medium inducement, right? Of course, for the bigger picture, it is your break of structure low, yes. But for the intraday plays, this becomes your medium inducement. You want to trade away from that. So with that knowing that this medium inducement in here, what day, obviously in hindsight, you've already seen it, what days can we expect in terms of the cycle variation? So if I get my pen, right? So let's say this in hindsight is not there, right? So let's say we have Asia range in here. What cycle plays could we expect? Obviously, the Mona Lisa trade would be Asia range, right? Or Asia range in here. Make something like this. Fakes the small my trap in here. Perfect line. You see what I mean? London Open into the extreme and then turns into London knockout, right? Away from the medium inducement. But that's obviously not what happened, is it? But of course, we can still expect these cycle variations also, because another scenario would be obviously something like this, retail heaven, and exactly that is what happened. Obviously, the perfect retail heaven would be if it comes back, touch something in here, Asia high, and then continuation higher until these next liquidity areas, and then obviously aiming slowly, but surely on the extreme mitigations in here, right? That obviously would be the ideal scenarios, right? So again, we have London knockouts or retail heavens, right? But again, we don't really expect like a normal cycle play or whatever, like could potentially be also an Asia whipsaw. Let's say this would have ripped right away in here. Oh, sorry, the other way direction, otherwise it wouldn't be an Asia whipsaw, right? So let's say it is inducing high Asia whipsaw into the extreme mitigation and then higher. That would be a possibility also, right? On Asia whipsaw to low side wouldn't really make that much sense. Like let's say it would be like here. Then obviously it wouldn't make the best sense because then Asia whipsaw would be whipping like this, and that's not a really possibility, is it? So the best scenarios obviously would be London knockout, right? Something like this, and then just knocking it out, potentially all the way up here, but next liquidity areas at least, right? Or retail heaven of how we have it here anyways, or potentially Asia whipsaw to the high side first, whipping Asia, coming into our extreme mitigations, and then whipping, giving us a valid Asia whipsaw, and then aiming for next liquidity areas. But that's the cycle variation we could have had just based on the overall picture. Again, medium inducement, but having in mind that it's just valid until the next supply areas in here. Okay. And of course, whoops, let me remove my pen in here. Right. And the next day obviously didn't tap into the extreme mitigations of the 1 hour also. It stayed short of it, but gives us equal highs instead. Okay. So technically, again, you can trade it and tapped into the imbalance, but very hard to trade. Again, gives you the break of structure here, taps back into the extreme mitigation. I actually broke this day in more detail down on Chow Time 2 and the last hour. I just give a very in-depth analysis about that on a quick one, but just to look at this day of how messy it was of the position also, but how you still could actually smoke this day with all these mini cycles in here. So if you want to see this day in detail, then go to the bonus episodes, Chow Time 2. The last part was from me, and I covered this day in detail of when you see what's going on in here, right? But overall, of course, we have to keep in mind that this is the extreme mitigation here, and we never tapped into that, but leaves us with these liquidity buildups in here. Okay, the next day, obviously, tapped into the perfect normal cycle play, awesome. But now things get very interesting because look where Asia is placed in here now. Right, so just staying on a 5 minute, like what can we technically see? Let's actually give me my pen in here. So we're having this Asia range. We're seeing this huge channel buildup, right? Awesome. So what already can we see? Channeling downwards and already kind of inducing this channel in here. Okay, so perfect. That's really nice. So of course, we can see and expect that this cycle play, like this little trade Asia plane here, if this taps back in here, that's good for the downside to induce this channel. Okay, perfect. But that's still Asia. So we're not really that much interested. Okay, so let's actually see. And again, the thing though is our ideal target is obviously here, or for intraday purposes here, or for the extreme here, right? But that stuff you already can see. We have this medium inducement. You still want to trade away from that until the next supply area. We never tapped into there, so that's still valid because we never invalidated it before we tapped into the supply areas. Okay, so this day can turn out technically on, that's my pen, again, something like this, maybe Asia range gain induced, maybe like this, London open, maybe in here. That obviously would be a perfect day for maybe London knockout, or again, if this would happen then in New York, New York trap, could also be a normal cycle day, right? Perfect. So we could have a starter kit. We could have Asia range getting induced by an Asia whipsaw, like something like this. That obviously would be our Mona Lisa scenario, right? Again, or we technically not really retail heavens. Like how would they even look, right? Technically, retail heaven, not really, because again, if it goes into here, it should give a reaction, not just go lower, right? So retail heavens out of the picture. So we can look for normal cycle play, Asia whipsaw, or a London knockout, right? So that's the scenarios we have in this scenario, in this point, right? Let's actually see just in a 5 minutes to give you the cycle plays of what's going on here, right? So we got, okay, this channel even induced insanely nice. Okay, that's really, really nice. I love shit like that because we're still in Asia. So now, okay, we can definitely see what they're trying to do. So never give us an entry in here, stay short of it. But now obviously this becomes invalidated because this is the clearest inducement you can have. So technically now you have this cycle play to the upside, and now you're looking for sell sides, right? So, okay, gives this internal break of structure after this inducement play. So again, if it taps into the mitigation, that's something you could trade, but again, stop loss would be way too big. But just for understanding purposes, you have your internal break of structures after this huge inducement of this channel, right? Also gives, of course, fake break of structures to the high side. Again, the purpose only was to induce the channel, and now we slowly but surely could aim for down there. So let's see what they do. Okay, missed this mitigation actually. Perfect. Asia range is done. Okay, messes around, gives the double. Okay, now it's a different scenario because again we faked again the build up, and now we see the overall cycle maybe. Okay, huge down channeling. We still have this extreme mitigation. Perfect. But what is going on here now? Look at the timing, and now you have to slowly combine things. Okay, so of course, our extreme mitigation would be here. Could be a London thing, yes, for sure. But what is this baby cycling here? Right, we have our build-up channeling downwards. Right, we're having the build-up, equal lows, pullback, vector candle into timing. Okay, so what can this technically be? Okay, nothing we can trade off because this tapped into no man's land in here, so there's no possible mitigation. You should not pull something out of yours and say like, it tapped into this imbalance. So no, that's not how we do it, right? So again, just see the cycle play and be aware that maybe this could lead to some sort of reaction, as this could be a potential cycle to downside already fulfilled, right? So let's just wait what they do. Okay, and now it's locked in kind of, right? It gives this internal break of structures here after the cycle play. It's a Frankfurt cycle play. Okay, so now if they come back to this extreme, we could technically trade this a little bit higher, right? And maybe aim for this medium inducements up here. And then we could look for an Asia whipsaw into the extreme mitigations, and then obviously looking into next supply areas, right? But that's again just obviously projecting things out, and we have to react accordingly, right? So let's see what they do. Okay, actually just messing around. Let's see if we have some sort of maybe EDMs or something to trade into it, right? And yes, we kind of had it. I mean, the whole thing is EDM to be fair. So, but let's just wait actually for more clear reactions, something like this. Yeah, that's really nice. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, so of course, what we have, again, there's nothing we can force off. So perfect. Now it looks very juicy. We have, again, this channel buildup. Okay, so induced the structure here a little bit to the downside. Again, we never, again, technically also builds equal lows depending on how you see it. But what we can see nicely is channel buildup, inducement of the channel, giving a nice sharp pullback with speed. So that's technically something, again, you trade away from that, right? So again, if you understand the cycle plays, you had this valid cycle completion to the downside with Frankfurt Open, inducing this overplay, mini buildup, inducement of that buildup, right? So now, of course, you can look for more high side, as this maybe could be cycle upwards play, right? We could look for the medium inducements in here. Okay, so let's see if it gives some sort of continuation. Oh, okay, that's nice. Again, depending on how you see it, this, whatever, like internal breaker structure is very hard to spot, obviously, right? But that's something that could be a possibility, and then it's just gone. Okay, and what is going on here? Now it's characteristic as what? What is this? What's the characteristic of this? Build up, inducement low, smashing through Asia range. That's obviously now your Asia whipsaw. Okay, so this is your Asia whipsaw, taking out the medium like structure in here, right? And of course, now could be technically valid for Asia whipsaw plays. What's the next timing of an Asia whipsaw? The ideal timing obviously would be if the extreme is magic manipulation minutes 1. Very close enough. So let's see if it even goes higher. It does not. Okay. So now, obviously, we can look for reversal trades as we understand the cycle plays. Okay. We have our extreme mitigation here of the demand areas. We have room until at least this supply areas, or overall in 1 hour, this 1 hour supply areas. Okay. So now we're having an Asia whipsaw in no man's land. So does it randomly just stop in here and then out of a sudden goes all the way to the extreme? Very unlikely. But now we're having an Asia whipsaw locked in, okay, and we can trade this down until the next demand areas, right? So let's see if we actually can trade it, right? So if you go in the 1 minute, what's the things we look for, right? Perfect. Entry helper, oops, already there. Let entry, what's your internal break of structures? Boom, vector candle, internal break of structure, let entry, right of magic manipulation minutes of the day open also. So that is 100% a very, very, very nice confirmed trade, right? Until at least, depending on how you see it, at least, whoopa, I don't want to do that, at least of these lows. But again, why would it randomly stop in these lows? Again, aim a little bit lower for the extreme mitigation. What is the points of liquidity in this scenario? Obviously, Asia range with the day open, very, very, very nice, right? Asia range midline, or Asia high, this one, right? So these are the 2 zones you could look for, right? Again, ideally, smart money trap, barely even touch this one anyways, okay? And then into the extreme, 1 hour, very, very nice midline into day open also. That would be a juicy target, and this could be a potential smart money trap. Okay, if it turns out like this, that's Mona Lisa shit, right? But now we're seeing the Asia whipsaw, medium inducement high. Again, why is it medium? Because it should induce something to the left outside the stage, as minor structure plays, but again, at least induce something, right, to the left, not only internally. So that's really nice. Kind of locking in the Asia whipsaw. Now we have internal break structures let based on magic manipulation minutes to the absolute perfection. We tagged into our trade, right? Perfect. Whoops, what happened there actually? Okay, obviously you should mark it up properly, not like me, like an amateur in here. There you go. Then you're still valid, depending on how much shaky hands you got, obviously, right? But obviously, as you can see, never took out this high, just barely, right? So depending on obviously your broker, but that's EU, you should be good in here. Obviously, that gives you pretty sloppy, sweaty hands in here. But of course, if you draw it properly, not like me, it's sloppy, then obviously everything's still good. Okay, so perfect. So we're in this trade. Again, best case, if you not have a sloppy execution than me, right? And obviously, that's still very, very nice. You could aim for 1 to 15, again, based on the right stop loss in there, right? So, okay, let's see actually what's going on. Pulls back, order flow entry. Okay, if it comes back into these areas, which it does. Let's see, put this a little bit like this. You can see this candle. Okay, that's your 5-minute order flow entry in here. Again, a little bit too big for my taste, but just for saying on a 5-minute, if you want to re-enter that thing, you can, because of course now you have this locked in 5-minute break of structure also to the downside, confirming the Asia whipsaw in here, right? So of course, really, really nice. If you want to re-enter that thing, you can right there. And order flow entries. Okay, again, another ones. Not the nicest ones, but just feeling the imbalance. Perfect. Okay. Something maybe on the 1 minute and here, but we will not look for this for now. Right. And then boom. Builds equal low. So now it should be very obvious, obviously, that this will not gonna hold. Right. So, okay, let's see. Boom. Okay. Tapped into that. Perfect. That's really, really nice, right? So now, okay, that's again my view wait, because as it turns out the small money trap or valid mitigation areas. Again, we have to wait for the reaction. And as you already can see, they tapped into it now. Okay, so now, okay, perfect. So is this the valid mitigation, or do they come to this juicier one down there? Again, we technically had it before anyway, small money trap into valid mitigation for Mona Lisa plays. But let's see if we somehow can confirm it for maybe some sort of reaction plays. Okay. So what do we have in here? If it obviously takes out this high in here, then obviously it's a different scenario, but let's see what they do, right? Okay, forming the equal lows. And what is it for the entry helper side? It is an anti-confluence EDM on the 5-minute, right? So technically, again, this holds, right? And then it's a very good indication for us that it goes to the extreme mitigation, so more to the downside. Boom. Okay, what's our ideal scenario in terms of the time? Obviously, New York trap. Look when it happens, almost to the absolute minute, right? And of course, if it taps into, boom, to the absolute minute. Again, the only difficulty is to not getting trapped into the smart money trap before, and then see the more liquidity cycle and more liquidity of the Asia range midline imbalances. Also, they open away from the medium inducement, right? We expect a smart money trap, and of course taps into the valid demand areas to the absolute minute, giving buildups before. Anti-confluence confirms the push lower, and now obviously this is super juicy, right? So let's see. And a few people actually took that. So is that refined enough? I would say so. All right, so let's actually say perfect. Let's just leave it like this for argument's sake, because we don't want to pull something out of ours too much. So let's see what actually that would be. If you just take it like this. Again, we could refine it more to the left, but let's just say for argument's sake, that's already a 1 to 10. Fair enough to me, right? Okay. So again, but what is our potential outcome? Should we randomly stop here? I mean, for intraday targets, it would be definitely a good target. Just again, 1 to 12, not bad. But what's our more realistic target? Obviously, the next supply areas, 1 to 20. Not bad for actually not even a refined PY, just playing it to the absolute minute, coming off an Asia whipsaw. So we expect the whip of this point, building equal lows. Trapping, smart money trap gives the false reaction confirmed by anti-confluence EDM trade into the extreme to the absolute minute, tagged in. There you go. Okay, so let's see. Okay, comes even lower, very nice, probably into some sort of refined POI. Even nicer, would give you an even better risk reward entry if you refine it even more. Let's see what we had in here. Okay, that's obviously why it happened. Look at it 1 minute. Obviously, at these buildups in here, right? Obviously faking the smart money trap in here for people, whatever, trading this, buy in here. That's actually really nice. If I see that in 1 minute, again, gives this internal break of structures in here, leaves the imbalances in here. And oh my God, that's actually too freaking juicy right there. Right, if you trade like this, 1 to 40. Okay, can't take that. Too juicy, too freaking juicy. Okay, absolutely amazing. Mona Lisa shit. Mona Lisa shit. And look at it go. Look at it go. Okay, the only thing is that can be tagged into maybe some sort of refillings, right? We had the 5 minute, if I saw that correct. Yes, you had the 5 minute imbalance fill in here. So if it gives some sort of continuation trades, maybe on the 1 minute. Okay, depending on how you see that, if you like this or no. But again, where else would it tap into? It could come all the way to the extreme, but I doubt that. Could be this one also, right? But I guess what? Let's say for argument's sake, this tapped into the 50, right? This the fixed one, right? And again, this whole thing is some sort of very big EDMs in here, right? Again, boom, 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 fitting the 5-minute imbalance. So if you like to trade it like this, continuation, right, of the structures in here, if it comes back lower, filling some sort of these areas in here, right, depending on, okay, something like this. Again, was clear actually that it will probably not come all the way back here because that's a little bit too over refined. Technically, yes, that's your proper refining it, but again, it's very unlikely in this scenario as this huge uprun pullbacks, right? So it gives already internal break of structures. So technically, if you market executed somewhere in here, that would be fine. For argument's sake, let's say I did it like this. Again, look at the risk reward. Still very juicy. Okay, and obviously the potential is huge as we never took out Asia high, even building the equal highs in here. That's really juicy. But let's for argument's sake, like not do it because again, you maybe say, no, I would have missed that, or no market execution in the middle of a range. That's completely fine. So let's say for argument's sake, we missed that, right? But at least we can see the play of what they did. Okay, so it comes back, maybe gives us another entry. No, it does not. And then finally, Asia high getting broken. Okay, so but is the play done here? No, not yet. Right, so boom, lovely shit. Absolute Mona Lisa stuff. Okay. Now the only thing is, again, depending on the intraday target, do you want to hold it? Again, the day is almost over. We are literally right now in London close. So London close characteristic, of course, if it's the extreme, we said it like multiple times, it should induce something, which it did. Again, this high once again. So for intraday target partials, that's a very good partial in here, right? But of course, if you want to hold it longer, you can because you're trading away from the medium inducement. You still have room for at least here, or obviously the extreme, depending on how you want it, right? So let's say you partial here for intraday, get yourself paid, like very nice. If you want to hold it for next day, you can. You just have to be aware that the next day, of course, can come all the way back here somewhere because maybe induced low goes higher. So you have to obviously be aware of that also. Okay. For argument's sake, just you say partial. Or if let's say we have 2 positions in, we close the 1 position fully, the other position we leave running. Okay, so not bad at all. And then the day obviously is over. Asia, London close. We expect obviously a pullback from there on, and then the day is over. Okay. So let's see. Okay. Messes around. Perfect. Okay, so not a bad day actually. Not a bad day, I would say. Okay, so let's say the next day, what's going on here? Again, we wait for Asia and you see there's the huge pullback into it, but now obviously it looks a little bit not so good if we left this position on because we already can see what they're doing. They're building the false channel downwards, so we can expect an inducement low into high, right? So again, that's where the cycle variations slowly should click in your brain, where it says, okay, it's going on here. Depending on technically still in the cycle and here. So what should induce the channel? It does induce the channel. Okay. What's going on here? Okay, that's crazy actually. So building the triple top, never induce the channel, only to the high side. So what does that mean if you only induce the channel to the high side? We want to induce low. Nothing you would trade. That actually doesn't look nice at all. Even if I can remember that a few people took the sell in here, if I'm not mistaken. That was really good until you see the should go lower for fast victorious scenarios. Or in this case, it was very late in London already, right? But again, huge liquidity buildup in here. Finally inducing out of it. Again, there's nothing really you should look for left because that already tapped into there, gives the false reaction, obviously, smart money trap characteristics right in here. So that's the smart money trap. Let's, for argument's sake, tag this one smart money trap also. And then again, Mona Lisa scenario would be tapping all the way to extreme, but is it likely that it will happen? Again, it taps in once, twice, third times. Probably not, as this is a medium inducement. Actually want to trade away from it. You had a huge reaction. Again, it's just stopping everyone out who's got into this buy channels in here, buy trends up here. And of course, now we can expect the day obviously giving us a really nice cycle in terms of, there you go, that's really nice now. Like again, we're having channel buildup in Asia, building huge liquidity to the high side, inducing Asia low, right? Finally, right? There's nothing really we want to look for mitigation other than the extreme, right? But again, the moment you understand the cycles very nicely, you could already can see that this technically is done inducing to low side now. So depending on how advanced you get on the 1 minute, again, I see actually a few people did that. You can somehow enter this in here, but for argument's sake, as we don't want to confuse anyone, that's not the cleanest one and definitely is an advanced one, but you have to be aware, okay, this cycle could be done and you could play it to the upside. And it was just running from down. Okay, taking out obviously these equal highs in here, obviously missed our POY in there, but that was a really nice cycle play, right? But now maybe you're arguing, oh, Asia whipsaw. Okay, yes, I see Asia whipsaw, but again, then okay, technically you're looking for something in break of structures, a magic manipulation minutes. Okay, perfectly fine if you do so, right? But let's actually just mock magic manipulation minutes too, right? So just be aware of these cycle variations. This Asia whipsaw, perfect, made sense because why? Asia range, build up right before our point of interest, never tapped even in the smart money trap. Asia whipsaw, very likely tap into this POY. Now this one, similar but different because again, we tapped into the mitigation of the medium inducement already. Okay, so yes, would be 10 times nicer if we tap into the, but again, is it necessary? Is it already mitigated the medium inducement? Yes, it did. Right, and of course, now it just induced internal or intraday liquidity after the cycle completed. Now it's just gone. And again, what's another potential opportunity or outcome? London knockout or something like this into these scenarios, or retail heavens. Normal starter kits, right? Because again, could inducement low, taps into here and gives some sort of pullback and being a normal cycle kit, right? Starter kit. That's all possibilities. And Asia whipsaw in here could be possible, but is more likely unlikely because again, we already tapped into the medium inducement mitigation in her. Okay, so let's actually see what they're trying to do. Okay, magic manipulation minutes, and now maybe even get an anti-confluence again. If you maybe look for Asia whipsaw, that's fine, but guess what? What is this? Filling the imbalance. What is this on an entry helper? An EDM, right? You see EDMs in here, right? Right, absolutely to the minute of Asia high, right? So again, do we have a scenario which is London knockout into the next demand areas or supply areas in this scenario, right? Yes, it is. So should you actually maybe even look for buy trades instead of sell trades? Yes. Okay, what is it? To the next supply areas, 1 to 8. Okay, so is that something you could take? Yes, it is. Okay. Again, based on inducing low, internal structure plays, right, or intraday plays, taking out the liquidity, cycle is done, right, building up, inducing low. Yes, Asia whips are characteristic. We're trading away from the medium inducement now, finally, mitigation in here, trading away from that. So instead of looking for an Asia whipsaw, whatever, sell in here, maybe trade the EDM, buy into the next supply area, right? And absolutely to the minute, also tapped off the day open liquidity and Asia range high. Okay, so you have more confirmations to the trade this long than short. Again, short confirmation is absolutely nothing in these scenarios, right? And if you're not completely sure, at least hedge the buy into here. And if you still want to look for a sell, then again, you technically can, but okay, at least you don't getting an unnecessary L if you hedge the buys in here. But again, way more confluences for the buy trade than the sell trade. Again, the sell trade only would be based on, okay, potentially an Asia whipsaw, okay? So, but nothing else. Then again, just tubes through it like nothing, okay? And then again, what's our next zone? That's our next demand area. Okay, so we wait. Obviously, we don't want to put a limit on there. Okay, so now obviously gives us huge equal highs in here based on this bigger supply area, right? Gives us another EDM confirmation, right? Already is EDM, but obviously this would be the nicer anti-confluence in here if it taps into this one. But you already can see this is already from here to here is already EDM like crazy. Also let potential. We never had a let before, right? So that's huge anti-confluence. Taps into, really nice. Okay, filled the let, but still huge EDM, right? So there you go. That's technically again where you avoid a reversal trade, but trade into the inducement, trade into the liquidity, trade still into this bigger picture supply area, but confirm with the, again, EDM, filling the imbalance, equal highs in here. And again, what's our ideal scenarios to tap in these areas anyways? You guessed it. New York trap time. So if it taps into the, would be 10 times nicer. Now New York trap time, boom, takes out the liquidity and you're out. You're out of this trade. You're out of this trade. Or technically this trade already hit TP, depending on how you had it. Right, but let's say you had this one, another one. So okay, not the craziest thing, 1 to 8, 1 to 5. Okay, nothing too crazy to be too freaking out about. But now obviously, guess what? If you have this bigger picture supply area, now again, do you think this cycle is completed in terms of the upside? Should we take out the slope? Probably not, right? But again, is this cycle at least done, right? Until where? Until at least, again, pullback areas, breaking structures at some point, right? Making people a little bit directional switched again. Again, we're still having our medium inducement and we're still having our extreme mitigation and we're still trading away from this medium inducement until we reached the next supply areas, right? So this is intraday plays, but can be traded. Let's see if we can. Right, so obviously we don't want to fire anything here, but we have our vector candle, lovely shit. So let's see if we have some sort of continuation, confirmations. Okay, very nice. Look at the entry helper. Look at the break of structure. Okay. Okay, this is Mona Lisa shit right there. Into the mitigation, being a let, absolutely Mona Lisa of the break of structure. Okay, Mona Lisa shit. Okay, so just be sure this time. Again, we had this for the first position where I slopped my entry a little bit, my stop loss a little bit, but you get the point, right? And you should aim for 1 to 8, something like this. Okay, so let's see. Taps in, messes around. Okay, messes around like crazy. Okay. Okay. Okay, maybe barely. Should not be a break even to be fair though. Okay, but now it's just very late in the day. So I'm not sure if that actually, oh, maybe it does. Come on. Okay, but that's just very late in the day. So as you see, not the nicest trade to be fair. Okay, but at least obviously very unexpected what it did. The only thing is what, okay, this came a little bit closer in here, but still 128 out of it, but very late though. 9:19, so 7 p.m. German time. Okay, so a little bit late, but yeah, better than shitting your pants. So not bad at all, actually. Okay, so the thing though is, let me just actually drink something. So the thing is that, of course, we now tapped into some sort of supply areas. But again, this was not the extreme. We still have this liquidity left, but we at least made this best out of this day in here. Okay, so now we can look for the next day. What is going to happen? Okay. All right. Whoops. Okay. Very good. Okay, so we can see what they tried to do here. So technically, Asia, whatever, doing its thing, not really the nicest stuff. Just, in my opinion, just faking the order flow out of this. Yeah, let's say smart money traders having this demand area or supply area, whatever this call it, supply obviously, right? And again, faking the order flow, giving out a false break of structure to the low side again, right? But guess what? This is our inducement to low side, but nothing really we could trade in here. Again, the only thing, if you really wanted to trade something, again, which isn't the nicest stuff anyways, but again, you had your channel, vector candles into the supply, right? And again, you look for internal break of structures, again, which you never really had in here because that would be down there. And then if we tapped into here, then you could trade the fast time fractures trade into the low side, but we just never had that. Okay. But you hopefully see, let me get my pen. Again, channel build up, vector candles into supply areas, right? Again, then if this push gets broken, or maybe that was something on a 1 minute, and then can you trade into the liquidity down there? Okay. So I never had that though. So let's see what they actually did. Okay, but now it's very freaking nice. Okay, so again, we're having this channel build up in Asia. Now this huge channeling downwards build up, right? Nice build up. Look at this quadrillion bottom on the downside. Again, this mini channel in here, inducing with speed, right? Of course, there's nothing really going on to the left. We could trade for mitigations off, right? But guess what? This cycle is done to the downside. Obviously, the more experienced people, they can look for buys in here and also did. I remember a few did, which is absolutely amazing. Again, what's the timing? Magic manipulation minute. Again, this is advanced trades. Yes, for sure. Is it tradable? 100%, right? 100% you can trade that. And by the way, so did I as well, right? So you can obviously trade it like this also. So the only question is, where's your target, right? So you have news coming on Friday, so kind of cheating a little bit because obviously I was trading it, so I know exactly how I did it in terms of how you should do it. Intraday target, of course, Asia range. If you want to play it a little bit more, risky because of the news, then the target would be the next medium inducement in here. That was my personal target also. But of course, the more safe target is Asia range high, right? Of course, but if you really want to go forward, the medium inducement. And again, if you really want to play it, but then again, be aware of the news, is the extreme mitigation. Of course, that is your Mona Lisa scenario if it hits in here, right? And again, the only trick with that day was that there was crazy news going on there. But let's see of how it actually turned out, because obviously it was very, very nice of what happened. So first of all, it chuped out of the right? And then news were right around the corner. I think some were close. And look what happened actually. It was so nice. Even were in the call while it happened. And I think it was right now. Again, faking the breakout structure in here, faking again gives people the order flow, right? Mitigation, wants them to get into it and always trade to the short side. But guess what happened? Swooshed through it, tubed through it, hit my TP to the spackle. And again, that's where the thing comes in. If you don't get out and think like, oh yeah, we'll go all the way in there. Look actually what happened after that. Again, crazy news. And we even talked about that right on the edge while it happened. And of course, swooshed through it to the low side, right? And then of course, making all the people excited in here. They want to take now sell positions, fake the reaction, and then it takes out them once again. What's the only real scenario they wanted to do? Obviously go to the extreme mitigation. Unfortunately missed this trade, right? But that would be super freaking nice if you obviously had a limit in there, right? But yeah, that's the Mona Lisa scenario after the news. And of course now with the extreme of the 1 hour being mitigated, and there's such a nice, lovely day. And again, what is this scenario now? Again, if you just look at the 5 minute, what characteristic is this now? Just tube through it. Asia whipsaw, obviously whipping the low already. Again, first takes it out, whips the Asia whipsaw, whips it once again. So guess what? Now the 1 hour mitigation is fulfilled. And guess what? We are ready to obviously tube down. Finally, big time. Again, what's the next target you should at least aim for? Down there, right? Of course, the next proper target would be all the way down there, right? So obviously for the next day, probably not for this day, but overall, if you want to hold this longer, you could have definitely, right? But of course, it was very tricky to get in there. All right, so news, what a surprise. So random, the news, right? Never makes sense what the news does. Only plays the cycles to the absolute perfection, right? And then, of course, this thing was just not tradable after that, right? But very, very juicy. So intraday target, obviously, would have been hit in here. Perfect stuff, right? But then again, has potential way lower after the 1 hour mitigation zone is hit. So let's see again what they're trying to do next day, maybe just again to finish the whole day off. So what do they do in here? Lovely stuff. Okay. Okay, so in that day, obviously, let's see what they try to do here. Should be very obvious what they're doing here, right? Building obviously this false channel in here. And again, now we make a little twist, make this analysis yourself, try to do it on the edge and see what they try to do here. Again, our next, just be in mind, again, don't try to cheat on there, but obviously extreme mitigation of the 1 hour, which obviously was very nice, led to all this thing, induced this liquidity before that, really juicy, right? Induced it into extreme mitigation. Perfect. Next target, obviously, was this one, right? Lovely stuff. We already hit that. So if you look at the 1 hour, what's the next target we could look for? Something like this, as we had it, right? Okay, so with that in mind, what day or variation, cycle variation could that be? Okay, so now again, we have huge potential to the downside. We're building up the channel high. If you get now what, again, there's my fancy pen. What can we get? Cycle variations. Now do this practice for yourself. Can we have a retail heaven like this? Can we have that? Maybe. Okay, I gave you a little hint. The hint is no. Or can we have maybe something like this? London knockout to the downside all the way. Or again, maybe, I don't know how that even would work, this scenario, but maybe a retail happen like this to downside. So as you probably already saw, the best potential outcome of the scenario would be inducement high, and then something like this, internal break of structures, right? This, and then turning into London knockout. Okay, so let's actually see what we had in here then. Again, we kind of made a little projection already. So we wait, of course, until Asia is done. Now it's done. Gives again the fake break of structure in here. Pushes higher. Perfect, actually. Right, so guess what? That's the inducement already. Taps into order flow. Okay, valid mitigation this time, because again, we had our channel build up before that. Again, where's the smart money trap? We already had it in here, right? Gives the false reaction, smart money trap, taps into the extreme or the mitigation of this one. Again, really, really nice. Again, maybe you're asking like, okay, why is this not the smart money trap, but this one? Right, again, look at the cycle of what it did. Again, we had already smart money trap breaking the false. Again, that's where the details become very important. This again, push, faked the break of structures in here. Everyone's getting side already, and then obviously getting induced to the high side. Look, they're building the channel even higher, right? Again, broke the channel in here also, faking it, tapping into that also broke out of Asia range. So that is definitely very, very valid to take. So the only, or not to take, but to obviously mark up for mitigation, there's nothing you should take in here. You wait for what? Or you should wait for what? Of course, valid break of structures now. You got it, right? Perfect. So what's now the thing we wait for? Marking up our extreme mitigation after the cycle is done, like build up, false smart money trap into inducement, minor one into mitigation. Again, we still have huge potential to downside, right? Coming away, trading away from this major mitigation up here, right? Took out the liquidity into the news. Perfect. What a surprise. Huge downside action, right? And of course, now you can trade this into the cycle and expecting a London knockout, right? So let's go in a 1 minute to see what we have. Again, depending on how you want to refine it, this would be a possibility, right? Refining the extreme. And there's nothing really you should pull out of yours in here. So let's see how it goes for confirmations. What we have. Okay. Messing around, obviously. Now timing comes in. That's really, really nice. Look at how they're building it up. I'm probably faking the 5 minute POY in here. Building it up even more. Fake break of structure. No, not really fake break of structures, but fake reaction. There you go. Inducement if it taps into. Boom. Lovely shit. And of course, that's super, super valid to take. Oops, not the 15, but the 5. Until then, at least again, intraday target, Asia low, and look at it. How juicy that Asia low is. Like triple tops, triple bottoms, like crazy, right? But of course, if you look at the 1 hour, we had huge, nice potential, right? To take out the next liquidity zone. If you don't like that, you can aim for the next liquidity mitigation area. But of course, knowing that we come from an extreme mitigation, major one, also, of course, we should take out the next liquidity zone, right? So depending on how you like it, you can either aim. And look at the risk reward on that one, like absolutely beautiful stuff, right? So look at this. If you just trade the mitigation in here, 1 to 65. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on, guys. Seriously now, right? And then guess what? Chuped out of the, absolutely smacked it, right? Of course, technically could trade the order flow. Just a little bit too big in that scenario. Again, the order flow would be filled in here. Nobody takes trades like that. But again, that's the only thing they gave in here. So now we grabbed this equal low. So we can expect a little reaction out of there. So let's go in the 1 minute to see for potential continuation trades. Again, yes, we grabbed this liquidity, but again, we don't really expect too much out of there. So let's see. Lovely. Again, faking break of structure. Okay. Messing around. What do we wait for? Continuations. So when does this happen? What's the timing when this fake break of structure happened? Magic manipulation minutes to the minute, right? Okay, so technically, now again, faking the break of structure to the high side. We had our equal highs in here. That's our mitigation right there. You see, stayed away from the mitigation, just barely tapped into it after the magic manipulation minutes, faked the break of structure all the way back low, build up into inducement. Again, don't force these reversal trades. Again, why is this not an Asia whip? So you're asking again. Again, base it always on the other cycles. Again, we had this Asia whipsaw. It didn't make sense. 100% tapping into the. We had this not Asia whipsaw. Why? Because again, we're trading away from the mitigation now. Same thing here. We had this Asia whipsaw, made perfect sense because again, we induced nothing really to the left, inducing high side into extreme mitigations, major one. This obviously is an Asia whipsaw, swoosh, right? But now we're trading away from the major mitigation. So this is of course not an Asia whipsaw, right? And first of all, anyways, we had like a reaction anyways. Again, pull back and then low, so it didn't even whip the Asia whipsaw. But again, that's of course why it should not be an Asia whipsaw anyways. Just let's say you see the speed in here, and then again, why should it not whip up higher? Yeah, it has not really corrections for Asia whipsaw anyways. Plus, you're trading away from a major mitigation. Plus, we even projected out that it could be a potential London knockout anyways. And now obviously it looks very juicy. Of course, we expected some sort of reaction here, right? Potentially even higher into these areas, right? But if you looked at the baby cycles in the 1 minute, right, that's what we had. Again, inducing low with wick, false break of structure to the absolute minute gives the false break of structure here. Also Asia, they open price, build up into a mitigation and continues lower. Again, don't get trapped into these reversal trades. Trade what is there and what you had before, trading away from the major mitigation zone, right in here. Perfect. Okay, so let's see. Boom, chopped out of there, right? And of course, we have to look for mini cycle plays to continuation lower. Again, look to the left. There's nothing really you would be interested in other than these false random zones in here, right? Again, nothing really should be interested in. Trade away from the major mitigation in here. Aim for the liquidity next, right? Or even not even there. Again, this turned into small money traps. So where are we actually? Okay, let's actually zoom out. I'm getting lost here. Oh, there we are. Okay. So you see that already turned into the small money trap in here. Perfect. Okay. So why should we randomly mitigate in here? Right. We come from a major mitigation zone. Of course, they fake the reaction. That's where we trade the continuation trades, exactly like we did in here. And of course, we aim for the next liquidity area. So the only thing we look for is cycle plays. All right. So look for cycle plays. So what do we have in here? Okay, perfect. If that takes it out, I'm very interested. It did. Okay, why is this important that it takes it out? Because again, then you have a valid cycle play in terms of building up a channel, coming off a fake smart money trap, break of structure, false one. So we interested in continuation lower. Right now gives break of structures to the low side. If it comes back, okay, if it comes back in here, something like whatever order block scenarios. Let's actually refine a little bit more. Okay, there you go. Taps in there, and again, if you take the trade in here, stop goes obviously above here, right? And again, that's not really equal highs in here. Again, it's a cycle play, taking out the equal highs. Then real break of structure. And of course, you want to continue to the low side, right? And then chop through it. Again, that's the power of not trying to force these reversal trades all the time. All these smart money traders getting trapped into. And again, they're looking just to the left, seeing some sort of change of characters. Again, then they see like, oh yeah, this tapped into something, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then you have this internal break of structures, right? And then again, taps into the, and then they're all left wondering of, oh shit, why do I get stopped out then later? Right? Again, even all break of structures in here, so they're taking even this trade in here once again. So again, don't be one of them. Use the advanced cycles, and Chow also covered it for 2 hours of how to trade these false break of structures, actually trade against them. And that's literally what you have to go to slowly also. Again, don't get trapped in these random reversal trades all the time, but trade actually against them and trade in line with the overall cycles and what they had before. Right? And of course, that thing then just flew to the downside, boom, and end the week off like this. Okay, so not too bad. Not too bad for Friday. Depending on how you had this one, right, would have been an insane trade. Okay, 1 to 70 possible. Nice 1 to 30 continuation trade, and potentially also this trade in here potential, right? So not bad at all. And then of course it's Friday. You just grabbed this liquidity down there, so you don't expect too many craziness. And then again, it's just best to end the day off and just leave it to do its thing. Okay, then it ends off like this. And yeah, nothing else really going on Friday. But that was the potential opportunities on Friday. Absolutely beautiful. Again, the only hard things in here is to not get trapped into, again, when it goes to the left, taps into some random zone in here, right? Again, and then just gives you some reaction in here. And then fakes the break of structures as they always do. Look at the mini cycles, look at the actual intentions, and then trade in line with it. That's way more safer than forcing all these crazy reversal trades all the time. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed it. I hope the cycle variations are a little bit clearer by now. Again, also very predictable that this could be a London knockout. So that's again another reason why you should not look for reversal trade in here, right? And of course, take the sell trade instead. Okay, this one, probably the most beautiful trade if it wouldn't be the news, and if it would have gave 1 minute entries in here, would be the best trade ever. But even you see this one, 1 to 70 potential, and that was absolutely Mona Lisa shit in here. Okay, so hope you enjoyed it, and we catch up very soon. Cheers.